So if you want to learn how to slow aging and recover faster without surgeries and injections, and this is going to be a talk for you, we're going to specifically talk about Shockwave for this video, and we'll get into Beamer on another video. So make sure that you check out our YouTube channel to learn more. So one of the biggest things, like for me, like as I've been getting older, because I'm in my 50s now, and I abused my body. Literally started from the age of 2, was in sports, was a gymnast, competitive gymnast, working out 4 hours a day, 5 days a week, got into playing soccer as well, doing both of those, eventually had to choose, went on to play college soccer, semi-professional soccer, made it all the way up to the U.S. national soccer team pool. When I say that I've abused my body, I have abused my body. So I'm always looking for ways to help me slow the aging process and feel my best, because I have literally abused my body. So our number one goal is to help you avoid surgery, injections, and medications. And we want to do this and get your life back. So a little bit about me. I've had over 20 years of experience in physical therapy. I think about 23 to be exact. A wellness expert in the sense of I'm always looking for things to help improve my body and recovery and healing and feeling my best. Because let me tell you, I don't want to slow down. Just like you guys don't want to slow down, I don't want to slow down either. And so I'm always looking for things to do that can really help our body feel its best, even when we have some nasty injuries or things that no one can figure out and nothing has worked. Like these are the cases that we typically see. So can you imagine what it would feel like if you could find a solution to your chronic pain, or maybe heal quicker? What would that look like? So today we're going to learn a little bit about shockwave therapy. How does it help with those chronic injuries, those acute injuries? What are common conditions it helps? Why we've added it, and how it helps our clients. So, and a bonus thing is where we'll talk about like what those next steps look like. So what is shockwave therapy? So shockwave originally was found to blast out those kidney stones non-invasively. So what it helps is really take your tissues and regenerate the tissues again. So it uses high energy sound waves to stimulate the healing and produce pain in chronic orthopedic conditions. It also kind of almost like re-injures those areas. So when you have those degenerative tissues, what happens is basically there's no blood flow left. Like the body said, we're done. We aren't, going to heal anymore. And then it leaves you with these kind of scarring type of structure, and it hurts. So like a really common area that we see this in will be like around the knee, and it'll feel like you have arthritis. The doctor says you have arthritis, but honestly, it's more, the tissue can be more degenerative, and it can feel like it is. But if you can get increased blood flow, knock out some of the adhesions and the scarring, calcifications that might have happened in that tissue, you will start to be able to activate those muscles again, and that knee pain will start going away. It removes calcifications, which gets absorbed into the lymphatic system. It promotes new collagen reproduction, and it helps strengthen. So when you have new collagen, that helps strengthen that fragile tissue and can speed up that healing. It decreases inflammation by reducing the inflammatory cells in those areas, and it increases blood flow to help bring nutrients, and oxygen to the damaged area. It also breaks up that scar tissue and breaks up those adhesions. So these are all the things that it can do. So what does it help with? So muscle tendon injuries, degenerative issues that are happening within those muscles and tendons, it's very, very common, especially as we get older, that happens. It can knock that out. Someone that has like plantar fasciitis, it can knock it out. Like the worst cases, we've been able to help clients knock that out in 4 to 6 shockwave treatments, to where they're back and they're walking again and not having any problems. Nerve healing, MS, we've been able to take like images like MRIs to find out like where the lesions are in the spine. And we've been able to take those lesions and been able to kind of knock those out to get some pretty nice results for patients with that. Diabetic neuropathies, it doesn't stop the numbness per se that you get in the foot, but most people's complaints are pain and swelling, and it definitely helps those things. Scarring, so if you have a massive scar like a C-section scar, pretty remarkable results that can happen. We have some pictures of that as well. It can speed up healing and those acute injuries by 50%. Chronic injuries, arthritis, where tissues get stuck around the joint, can definitely help with that. And it improves that muscle activation. And we're going to talk about some examples there. So what does this mean to you? So often our tissues, as we age, they can either get more inflamed, creating like a tendonitis, or they become more degenerative and have no more healing that happens. So if we look at this top one, this is more of like inflammation. So like this literally happened to me literally just this past week. I was running and I was racing, trying to like get away from the rain and the lightning, because it was like Saturday and it poured down rain here in Dallas. And I could feel my Achilles, but I couldn't stop. And I mean, it was so sore. I was like, I was having a hard time even walking on it. So I'm like, I'm going to the office and I'm going to go and use the Shockwave on it to like help just speed up the healing. Now that day when I used it, I was pretty sore, but the next day I was like, wow, it actually feels pretty good. Like I can actually go up on my toes and not have any pain. Couldn't do that the day before. These are, again, some things that can happen to really increase that speed of healing. Tendinosis, this is when it becomes more degenerative. So you're going to really kind of break up any of the scarring and adhesions that have happened in those areas and bring in blood flow to start that healing process again. So again, Achilles tendonitis, plantar fasciitis, muscle tightness around the knee joint, back joint, shoulder joints. These are all places that are common areas that can be helped. So frozen shoulder or rotator cuff tears. Frozen shoulder basically is when you have adhesions and inflammation within that joint capsule. We can knock a lot of that stuff out and really increase the speed of healing, which is quite amazing. Because if anyone's ever had frozen shoulder, man, it can take months and months and months for you to start feeling better, because you got to go through all the phases of what happens with adhesive capsulitis. So this can really help knock those out pretty quickly. It can also help with rotator cuff tears. We literally had a client that had a massive rotator cuff tear. You're going to hear a story in a second. But he literally couldn't move his arm, and we literally shockwaved around his shoulder. And I think it was like 6 treatments. And he was like raising his arm. He's like, I feel like I'm 90% better. I just need to start working on strengthening, which is quite amazing. And you're going to hear his story here in a second.
Mountain biking and crashed and hurt my shoulder and couldn't use it at all. I mean, I was a Tyrannosaurus Rex. This is all I couldn't raise my arm like I can now. And it was like on the pain scale, it was a 10. And so I came home from mountain biking and went to see my sports medicine doctor. And he said, you know, they gave me an MRI, X-ray, nothing broken, but the MRI showed that it was 80% torn. And I can't remember the specific muscle that runs along the top here, but supraspinatus or something.
Yeah, supraspinatus.
Correct. Anyway, so he gave me 3 options. He goes, I can do nothing and just use a remote control to watch TV, but that wasn't good enough for me. He said I could go to physical therapy, or I could have rotator cuff surgery. And I was like, well, I'm going to go to do physical therapy. And so I showed up here and started doing therapy, and I couldn't do much. I mean, they gave me the evaluation and I had no strength and no mobility. And
yeah, you couldn't even get your arm really off your body at all.
Right. I could do that, maybe this, but I couldn't get my elbow away from the side of my body.
Yes, because exactly. That's how bad it was.
So I decided to go to a shoulder specialist as well. And I brought him the results of the MRI, and he looked at that. He didn't do any evaluation or anything. He just said, when do you want to do the surgery? And I'm like, whoa. I'm going to do physical therapy for a little while and see how that goes. So I started the physical therapy, did a couple of weeks, and then I was seeing some improvement, but then the Shockwave treatment started, and I did the first one, and the first one was a little uncomfortable from a percussion standpoint.
Yeah.
The device is kind of like, I guess I don't know the names of the tools or recovery.
I call it a jackhammer.
Right, a jackhammer. a jigsaw or something like that on the shoulder, and it wasn't real uncomfortable. On the pain scale, it was manageable.
Yeah.
Probably a 4 or 5.
Yeah.
But I think I did 4 or 5 treatments, and every week I got better and better and better to where now, I mean, I don't have full strength, but it's probably 70 to 80%, but there's no need for surgery.
Yeah.
And everybody that tells me about rotator cuff surgery is that there's like anywhere from 4 months to 12 months to where I wouldn't even be able to do this.
Yes. It's horrific. You can't sleep for like 2 or 3 months. You're like in a recliner because you can't even lie back flat because it hurts so bad.
So there is a testimonial from a rotator cuff.
Mountain biking
was quite amazing. Other things, tennis elbow, elbow tendonitis, massive. It's not something that is fun to get. It's also something that can take some time to get some relief. And we have found some pretty nice relief with the Shockwave as well. We have to go a lot lighter and make it not as intense. We have to use different heads because it can get a little bit intense for the elbow, but we have learned like which heads to kind of work with the Shockwave to really produce some really nice results with that as well. Arthritis, is it really where your pain is coming from, or is it something else? A lot of times what we find is that you'll have more muscle degeneration or tendon issues around the joints that is creating the joint to feel like very arthritic. So when you have something that is very of an acute injury, you'll have this whole collagen process, which is what we want, because we want that to come in to help make that tissue that has been injured strong again. And then all of a sudden it'll get back to where it's been regenerated and healed and looks really nice. Well, what happens when we have a chronic injury, there is persistent inflammation that gets infiltrated and the tissue becomes more fibrosis. So very similar to like, having kind of scarring and things, it'll just literally pull and it hurts to pull and you'll feel it in your joint. So the problem with this is that you go and you see a doctor and they spend 10 minutes with you taking a picture of your knee and they say, oh, you have arthritis, or taking a picture of whatever, your back. Oh, you have arthritis. And honestly, like everyone gets arthritis as we get older. It's just like getting wrinkles on our face. Everyone, as we get older, gets wrinkles on our face. It's just a part of the aging process. And that's what arthritis is. So is your pain really coming from that, or is it coming from something else? And that's what we're really looking at. And it takes more than a 10-minute conversation to figure this out. So one of the things that happens is you'll get better muscle activation after Shockwave. It's quite amazing. Like we literally had a client that had a partial knee replacement. Her knee was horrible for about a year, but she had to wait because of things that were just happening that she just couldn't have the surgery. So when she had the surgery, they fixed the piece that was bad, but she was still getting a whole lot of knee pain. It was really frustrated. The doctor was like, I don't know. Everything looks really good. What it was the tissues all around her knee that was a mess. I mean, a mess. She couldn't get any muscle activation without her knee hurting. Even easy exercises, she could feel it in her knee. Her muscles were not firing. So I was like, we are going to do Shockwave. And then, we'll be able to get these muscles to start activating. So after a couple of visits, I was like, holy cow, you can do functional strengthening, which means, squatting, single leg squats, lunges, those kind of things. She could do those things and she could feel her muscles and not her knee, which is huge because that's what we want. If our muscles can support us, then a lot of the pain that we get within our joints is going to go away. So pretty amazing results from doing Shockwave and just getting the muscles to start activating again. Here's an example. What I'm going to have you do is I want you to look at the right side of the screen here and see what his muscle activation looks like. And then we're going to play it again and look at the left side of the screen as well. But when you look at this, so that's his good side. When we look over here, here's his bad side. Like he had a hard time going down. Better. So when we look at it again, on this side, so here's his bad side again. This is after doing Shockwave. He's able to activate his muscles a little bit better. Now, we need to work on other strengthening things to help improve everything. But he was able to activate his muscles so much better after doing the shockwave therapy. So other things that it does, if you have something that is more of an acute issue, like you have a vacation coming up and you have a recent new injury, or there's a race or an athletic event, and you have this recent injury, we can speed up your healing by like 50%. It's quite amazing. We had a person, she's a dancer, and she had a competition to basically, she was a tryouts for college. And this is where she wanted to go to college. And these are the only tryouts that they have. Like, you go to these tryouts and you make the team or you don't make the team. Well, she injured her back literally maybe 5 days before she's supposed to leave. So we saw her on a Friday, a Monday, and a Wednesday, and we did Beamer on her, which is a pulse electromagnetic field to really help improve that blood flow and increase nutrition, take out waste. And then we did Shockwave on her to really speed up the healing, so that she could be able to dance and not like have too many issues. We knew she was probably going to be sore, but for her to be able to do everything that she wants to be able to do, we were really trying to speed that up. We were also working on her mechanics of just trying to get things to move again as well. But we hit her with everything we possibly could. And literally she was able to do her dance competition. She felt amazing. She definitely was sore afterwards. She's come back in since then, but we were able to help her speed up that healing. We have another example of someone that had a massive calf strain. This was a firefighter, and she literally also plays volleyball, and she literally eccentrically loaded. So came down on her foot, and that muscle was elongated to kind of get that power. And she had a rip, a tear in the calf. I mean, she went down, she crawled off the volleyball court. And she's like, oh, I think I have an injury. And, but she's also a firefighter. And so her biggest fear was that there was going to be a massive fire and she wasn't going to be able to do her job. And that was really scary because she couldn't, like, she needed to work. You know, was just about to buy a house and all these things. So we're like, we're going to do Shockwave on you. Before the Shockwave, couldn't even go up on her toes because it just hurt too bad. We did the Shockwave treatment, her first one, and she could start doing heel raises, gave her some exercises to start working on. By her second Shockwave treatment, she literally had a fire like that week. And she said she was able to put all of her gear on. This is her actually, and was able to walk upstairs, downstairs to go in and do her job. And there's no way that would have happened if she didn't do the Shockwave. Like, literally, it probably would have taken her 6 weeks to get to that point that took us 2 weeks to get. So pretty amazing on being able to heal things a lot faster when you have like those tears, ankle sprains, those kind of things. This next picture here is the C-section scar. So quite amazing. What can happen when you have C-sections is you can get a lot of scarring. And then you can see how the skin has just kind of indented that skin, but that scarring can start migrating its way down, and you can have issues like bowel obstructions and things like that. So you can literally use the Shockwave to improve the tissue around here. And you can see this. Now, these take a lot longer to heal and look like this than like an injury. You know, we're saying, you know, it can be, you know, 4 to 8 times or so is what people typically need, depending on the injury and the size of the injury type thing. But this takes a little bit longer to get these results. But I mean, the results are pretty amazing when you can see these pictures. So this is a college swimmer, and they went from having massive chronic back pain to no pain. And so I'm going to give you a little bit of the history here. So he had been to about 3 or 4 different physical therapy offices in Houston, which is where he lives, but he's a collegiate swimmer at SMU. Found our office, came in, and we noticed, like, man, you are not moving in your hip either. Has anyone ever addressed that? So we got his hip moving, started working on some strengthening type stuff, gave him some tools, and he was able to swim, but he would always have to come back in for some tune-ups because his back would start bothering him again. And he was having a hard time, like, getting in hard workouts. So I was like, you know what? We just got this piece of equipment. We're going to use it on you. Let's do it. So we did. So we did about 4 treatments. And you're going to hear his story now on what that, how that worked for him.
Mm-hmm. So I know, like, you're doing well, and it would kind of come back, and we'd need little tune-ups, and then it kind of started creeping back in again. It was
Yeah.
slightly different. And that's when we talked and said, hey, we have this Shockwave treatment that we're doing. And I think this is something that can really help you. And you're in the middle of like potentially getting an injection, which ended up not happening. So tell us a little bit about the Shockwave and how, because I think it was only 4 sessions and it was like gone.
Oh,
Tell
yeah.
us a little bit about your experience with that.
Yeah. So obviously, like this injury has been really stubborn, and so I tried a lot of things, and Stephanie tried a lot of things too. And like around March, like there had been like the symptoms that I was feeling like last year kind of came back, and I was getting really worried. And because I've done like basically everything with Stephanie, and I've done exercises and everything, and she proposed that we do Shockwave, and so we tried it. And after the first week, like just the first week alone, I already started to like see differences, because usually after like a kick set and swim practice, like I usually can't complete it, and the next day I'm like dead. But like the Shockwave, like just after 1 week, my practices with kick practices, like I was able to last longer, and then afterwards, like I just did a few presses and I was all good again. So Shockwave, I loved it. And yeah, it was only 4 weeks, 4 procedures, and basically like I'm pain free. Like this is the best I've been since.
I'm like in a lot, like this is the best you felt.
Yeah. This is the best I felt.
So again, this just kind of shows you what we can do with Shockwave and how we can really help speed things up. If you're interested in wanting to learn more, definitely reach out to our office. You'll find in the description, there'll be a lot of our contact information, as well as other resources for you. Make sure you subscribe to our channel. We put out content all the time, and put out stuff that maybe things that other people didn't think of, like Shockwave, and we have other things out there like the Beamer, which is a pulse electromagnetic field, and you'll see talks on that as well. So definitely make sure you subscribe. If you want to reach out to us with any questions, it's info at empower-pt.com, MPOWER-PT.com. Reach out with any questions that you have, or just reach out in the comment section, and we'll see you next time.